paradigm shift. And one of the things we've got to realize is we can't do this overnight. We can't do it in a year. We can't do it in 2 years. This is a generational shift. But what we mustn't do is look at the size of Everest and say, that's too tall, we're not going to begin to climb it. What I believe we have to do as a current generation of educators is say, look how high the mountain is. It's our job to get to base camp, because if we don't get to base camp, if we don't start the climb, it'll be another generation before people start the climb. The point is, in most of our working lifetimes, we may never see the achievement of our goals. But what we have to do is begin the journey so that a generation from now, they're looking at the paradigm shift that we began. And I think not to start something because the size and scale of the problem is so big is no excuse.
Hemos estimulado a esos niños para después encontrar al que descubrirá la vacuna contra el SIDA, al que hará una música maravillosa, usted lo decía. ¿Cómo descubrirlos en una escuela? ¿Cómo estimularlos para que realmente lleguen a dar de sí todo lo que llevan dentro, para que desarrollen todo su potencial?
I think the way to answer that question is to reverse it. The way I would answer that question is to say we need to understand what it is we do at the moment that restricts that development of our children. For example, I know that Sir Ken yesterday will have talked about creativity, which of course he's the world's leading expert on creativity. And one of the things I agree with him on is the fact that creativity is actually is an essential part of human intelligence. We all possess it. It's not something you can teach. It's not something you either have or you don't. And the reason I say that is because for some of my career, I've spent time with children who are preschool, so not yet at school, and those children in their very early stages of formal education. And I think the finest education models in the world are seen in our best run early years education facilities. Because what you see in really well-run early years facilities are resilient, self-confident, independent children who self-manage their learning. They don't wait to be told, do they? They just act and they learn and they engage. I know there's research, I can't remember where it comes from, but a number of years ago I read that there's some research that claims that somewhere between 80 to 85% of everything we learn in our lifetime, we learn before we're 5 years of age. Now, I don't know how accurate the statistic is, but if you think about the acceleration of learning that occurs before we start formal school, we learn to walk and talk. We learn to understand body language. We learn about the sensory world around us, touch and smell and sight and sound. And we do all of that before a teacher tells us about learning. And that, for me, is creativity, because creativity is that ability to find something of interest, to have the confidence and courage to play with it, to hypothesize about it, to explore it, and find new conditions and purposes for whatever that journey is. Now, to me, that's the same as learning. So what I'm saying is those children are there, they're born that way, and they're creative and they're dynamic and they're expansive and they're looking at the possibilities around them. My challenge to educators is what is it we're doing to them at the moment that then restricts them so much that by the time they're our age, they're saying, I'm not creative. And I suppose my best example is Clint. We cannot let the Clints of this world, who have extraordinary talents and abilities, slip through the net, and too many Clints do at the moment.
Sin embargo, no todos los niños son iguales. ¿Cómo se trabaja en un aula con esas diferencias?
Well, again, it's about the way we regard the current system, because what the current system does, it's like an industrial conveyor belt, isn't it? We assume that all children should be the same, so we make them all have the same experiences. We assess them all at the same ages, so the assumption is when you're 7, this is where you should be. When you're 10, 11, this is where you should be. And we put them all through the same experience, and when they come through at the other end, we're amazed at the moment that they end up not being identified as different. And my challenge actually is, if what we do is we create that systemic approach to learning, which assumes every child should be the same, go through the same experiences and will turn out the same at the end of the journey, then we're never going to create that expansive population we need to flourish in the future. So again, I think what we have to do is reverse the question. What we mustn't do is do what we're already doing, which is to standardize everything.
Richard Gerver, ha sido un placer tenerle aquí. Ya ha visto los aplausos. Gracias por esas cuestiones que nos ha planteado tan interesantes, de verdad, que nos han dado mucho que pensar. Gracias. Buenos días. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.